In the summer, fall, and winter, sheltered streamside areas like Stop 6 are a good place to see huge congregations of ladybugs, more formally known as ladybird beetles.
You have to keep your eyes open, and all of a sudden you'll see a huge spot of orange. And if you look closely, it's thousands of ladybugs. It's our native ladybug, the convergent ladybug. And it has a very interesting life cycle. It actually is born in the Central Valley during March or April. And as larvae, they don't look very cute. They actually look like little orange and black alligators. And they're certainly not very cute to the hundreds of aphids that each one eats. Finally, they pupate, and they turn into our ladybird beetles. By that time, most of the aphids are gone. It's become uncomfortably warm in the Central Valley, so ladybugs simply rise up through the atmosphere vertically until they hit about the 60-degree temperature level in the atmosphere. Insects have a hard time flying when it's cooler than 60 or 55 degrees. And at night, they follow that 60-degree temperature down right to the ground where they rest and take off again the next day. And finally, they reach the slopes of Mount Diablo, where they're quite happy. And they actually spend the summer in the shade. They'll take a few insects, what's available, but mostly they're interested in pollen. They'll clump together in the shade. When it gets cold and starts raining, then they'll look for a log or a real protected area to hide out in over the winter, kind of a ladybug slumber party. So when it warms up, then they mate and they rise up through the atmosphere again to that 60-degree level and head off towards the east and come down in the Central Valley, where they'll chow down on a few aphids and they'll lay their eggs and they die, and the whole life cycle starts again.
Streamside areas are also hospitable to grapes. When we revised this guide at the end of 2017, they appeared to be increasing their territory, smothering native trees. But you can't help but admire them in the fall.
They look like somebody took them and put them in a red paint can at the bottom. They just have a lot of red right at the bottom. They'll eventually be all red. But this is a wonderful color for fall.
Years ago, rootstocks from these grapes enabled some people to make a living here.
The very last landowner here in Mitchell Canyon, right up into the mid-1960s, the Murchio family, they made wine. They grew grapes. They used native rootstocks, and then other tastier grapes were grafted on. Most of these up here that have spread up here are probably the natives. But the story goes that way back when, during Prohibition, the locals were anxious to hide the wine that they were making and the alcohol, and they would hide bottles in the old copper mine shafts, which I have never been able to find, even though some of the shafts are still here.
The canyon was named for Kentuckian Isaac Mitchell. He came to California during the gold rush at the age of 20. Like many of the other 49ers, Mitchell didn't strike it rich in the gold fields, but he eventually married, had 6 children, and became a successful farmer in the San Ramon Valley. Later, Mitchell bought a big piece of land in this canyon, where he lived until he died in 1921. Now head up the trail to Stop 7, a good spot to see one of the mountain's most singular flowers. The signpost will be on your right.